The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
I was just about to tell you that I love him. I do. I love him. I love him. And I don't care what you think. I love him for the man he wants to be, and I love him for the man that he almost is. I love him, Laurel. I love him. I love him.
She'll let you in her house if you come knocking late at night. She'll let you in her mouth if the words you say are right. If you pay the price, she'll let you deep inside. But there's a secret garden she
You gotta be fair to her. She loves you.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you live from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and on the X Zone Broadcast Network, and our many affiliates right across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Australia, Asia, India, Africa, and Europe. If you'd like to give us a call, toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. That is worldwide, toll-free at 1-800-610-7035. My email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour, X Zone Nation, is Dr. Stuart Rose. We're going to be talking about his book, Sustainability. Now, it's a fascinating story, X Zone Nation, as well as a practical, reader-friendly guide, ideal for anyone interested in the ins and outs of sustainable living. And I believe today that more people need to be aware of their surroundings, and definitely sustainable living is going to be a very big part of our future. Now, Dr. Stuart is an architect and developer of possibly the most sustainable housing development in the United States. Rose guides us through a global transformation, taking us from the depletion of the world's resources and the current economic and political upheavals to a unique and insightful vision of what our living environment and our quality of life will soon be. Joining me now is Dr. Stuart Rose. And Stuart, welcome to the X Zone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where did your interest in sustainable or sustainability come from?
I've worked for a long time as a consultant to architects and engineers, and by background I am an architect and have a structural degree also. And one of the services we provide is strategic planning to identify markets to which they can aim their services. And that obliges us to read a lot of trends literature. And what we began seeing in the early 90s, actually, was an increased use of the word sustainability. And it kept growing and growing, and as I looked into it, initially I thought it was just another term environmentalists created to get attention. And then I realized they were literally talking about burning out planet Earth. And if you think about the magnitude of our planet, that's a lot to do, and that's exactly what they were talking about. And there's a lot of issues in the world that I don't feel like I'm going to go out and solve, but that was one I thought I could take a crack at. And so we thought, well, everybody has to have a home. Why don't we create a totally sustainable home? It takes care of its heating and cooling and power and water and everything strictly with what comes to the site naturally. And technically, it's actually not that difficult to do. And so we put our assets together and found a coach, a developer, successful developer to coach us. And so for the last 10 years now, we've been engaged in building this small little cluster of totally sustainable houses in Southeast Virginia near Williamsburg.
Is there a difference between sustainable housing and geo-housing?
I'm not sure how they define geo-housing. Let me give you my definition of sustainability.
All right, why don't we take a commercial break? That's coming up very shortly. I don't want to interrupt you because I find this topic totally interesting, and I'm glad to see people are actually moving in order to save this planet. ExoNation, Dr. Stuart Rose is our guest. www.gardenatriums.com, and his book Sustainability is available at Amazon.com. Dr. Rose and I will return on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
I was just about to tell you that I love him. I do. I love him. I love him. And I don't care what you think. I love him for the...
I'd like to be under the sea in an octopus's garden in the shade. He'd let us in, knows where we've been, in his octopus's garden in the shade. I'd ask my friends to come and see an octopus's garden with me. I'd like to be under the sea in an octopus's garden in the shade.
Dr. Peter Rose is our special guest, ExoNation. His website is gardenatriums.com, and the name of his book is Sustainability. It's available at Amazon.com. You know, Peter, I'm sorry, Stuart. A lot of the home and garden shows that are popping up all over the place are really going to the greenhouse, the geo house, and I guess what they're getting out there is the sustainability. As you're discussing in your book, and it's so nice to see so many innovative ways of using energy, that solar energy, wind energy, thermo energy. Why hasn't this been done before?
Well, it actually has. There's nothing in our garden atriums that we actually invented. Photovoltaic power got to be fairly inexpensive in the 70s, so it's been like 40 years. The Pueblo Indians did passive solar heating, and so the native cultures around the world have used different aspects of it. So if we simply say sustainable means I can live comfortably with what comes to my site naturally in terms of water and the sun, then that's sustainable, that's enduring. And people have had different native designs. You'll see in tropical areas that they have ways of cooling. For instance, Thomas Jefferson in Monticello, the house sits on a hill, and underneath it he has a wine cellar, and so the back walls of the wine cellar are up against the earth, which in that area is around 59 degrees, and it keeps the wine cool. Well, they also have little grills in the ceiling, which becomes the floor of the first floor of the house, and up at the top is a dome, and under the dome are small windows, and so he would simply open those little windows, and cool air would rise up and air condition the house naturally. And that can go on and on with no utility bills, and that's what I'd call sustainable.
Geo heating is coming a long way as well. You can actually get your house heated and cooled by using thermo. What is it?
Geothermal.
Geothermal.
Yes.
And
yes.
Once again, this seems to be a very simple solution to a major problem that we're having, and that brings a question. How do the major corporations like houses like yours that are basically going off the grid?
Reluctantly. Virginia law, for instance, requires utility companies to buy power back at the same rate they generate it. So in the daytime, our photovoltaics generate more power than what we need, and we put power back into the grid, and at nighttime, we simply take it back from the grid. So the way, and they're not going to be too happy about it, but the law requires them to do that. The way to get sustainable in any of the dimensions, such as power that you mentioned or heating, is you add up all you need. So how much heat do I need to stay warm and comfortable in the wintertime, and how do I prevent losing it? So increase your insulation and stop infiltration going through cracks and doors, and then increase insolation, sun coming in, until you come out with total comfort on the worst winter day, and then make sure you can ventilate in the off seasons. And same thing with electric power. I can add it up so I come out with zero. I generate the power that I need. But when I need it is not when the sun is up all the time. I might need it at night for things. And so the third element you have, besides your balanced budget, is storage. With rainwater, when it rains, it might be 3 in the morning and I don't need the water. So we put it in a cistern. And when you get up and you're bathing and cooking and I need water, then I take it from the cistern and we filter it to come into the home. And so it's really not that difficult, but you just have to come out with a zero balanced budget. And people come up with a lot of terms like green or environmentally friendly, and I like the term net zero because that says 100% of whatever it is, heating, cooling, power, water, we take care of with the house and with what just happens naturally. The geothermal is, it uses about half of the power of a heat pump, a traditional heat pump, and people don't use it because heat pumps are cheaper. But geothermal will provide heating and cooling just fine.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was surprised to see the efficiency of it and how far technology has come, and it seems that technology is working hand in hand with people like yourself and other people who want to go off the grid.
There is a lot of technology that's happening. One of the things I look for is when I see trend articles, do I see an increasing number of articles and an increasing volume of information about those things? And one that I've seen recently, which will go along with your off-the-grid comments, is batteries. And you're seeing a huge number of startup companies, which means venture capitalists have to be believing in it, and that are dealing with batteries that store more energy, batteries that recharge more quickly, batteries that last longer, batteries that are totally recyclable. And I read of one recently that is 4 kilowatts, and it's the size of a refrigerator you can put in your garage, and that means I can go totally off-grid. I can generate the power up the battery, use that through the night, and I can live through 3 or 4 totally cloudy days with no problem at all.
Stuart, what are some of the biggest obstacles you've experienced?
Well, you've kind of touched on them, actually. You mentioned the corporations. But the other, I would say, is municipalities, governments. They are used to having things a certain way, and same with lenders, bankers, and appraisers. And if you go to buy a home, the banker wants you to get an appraisal because if you can't pay the mortgage, they have to know that they can resell it. And so, in a sense, they don't want innovation. They don't want anything new or different. And it becomes very difficult to get an appraiser to give a value to something that's quite different with any reliability that a banker is going to accept. And then if you go to the cities, they have bureaucrats that are regulators. And they like everything to be absolutely the same because they basically don't like taking a lot of risk. And if they approve something, even though they know it's okay, and then they're criticized later for it, they're quite uncomfortable with that. And so, for example, we went off-grid on water on their last house. We use a well for backup, and it's essentially 100% on rainwater. And they said, well, if the health department, the state health department says it's okay, then it's okay with us. Well, the state health department turned out really like what we were doing because there's water shortages in this area, and so we're helping to reduce the demand on water.
Right.
And then they started coming up with reasons why we couldn't afterwards, even though they'd said if the health department said it was okay, it was okay. So we actually had to bring in attorneys and push them to look at the code and get approvals in order to get our approvals. And it's just that people think a certain way, and anytime you depart from that, it's going to kind of threaten them, and they're not comfortable with those kinds of changes.
Where I grew up in Montreal, we had an artesian well, so well water was the was the norm, and I can't understand why people, especially municipalities, would not go for that. Like you and I were just discussing, it would save them the water supply, and it would help solve many problems that they're experiencing. So, what is it, because they're going to lose revenue by you going and using your own water supply, that you're not going to have to, pay into the municipal fund for water?
For private utilities like the power company, I would say that would be exactly the case. If it's a public utility, like where the municipality owns a water supply, they're not as into having to have profitability, but they do feel threatened if you start taking things away, even though they may be running short of water. And they just don't like change. And it's fear-based. I'll give you one great example. One of the aspects of sustainability also is how well we use our land, so we don't have urban sprawl. And we were sitting in a planning commission meeting because we had proposed to do what's called cluster zoning or conservation district, in which you take the density that you desire and you shrink the size for a lot and take the extra and put it into shared space. So the garden atrium, for example, we're supposed to have 26,000-something square feet per house, and we have half that as a site for the house, and the other half is put into having a private park, a boat docks, and a pond, and a lot of amenities that people would normally have. And the planning commission was reviewing this, and rather than doing any research to find out what was this all about, they were going to try to have a setback from the street of over 100 feet, which would put us into a wetlands area and kill our project. And they knew it. And we finally asked them, why? And they said, well, so your neighbors don't have to see your house. And I said, well, the neighbors have come over. They actually like what we're doing. And they said, well, I drive by and I don't like it. And I said, well, the other houses around us are all one story. They're masonry. They're sloped roof. Ours are the same. What is the problem? And they said, well, yours is just different. And that, I think, is the essence. People are used to certain things a certain way. They're comfortable with it. If you get up in the morning at a certain time and have certain breakfast that you enjoy, and somebody changes it, it's like pulling the rug out, and it makes people quite uncomfortable. It's not rational. It's just fear of change.
But where do your rights come in, where you want to have this type of house? It doesn't violate any code. You're actually helping the environment. And because you're doing something a little different or something that they haven't thought of, or I still go back to the money aspect, because people hate change when they lose money.
Right.
It's crazy.
I would say in the last 8 years there's been enormous change. We've gone from being a renegade in this community to all of a sudden being one of the local heroes. And we're asked to give talks, we're written up in the newspapers, and now people and especially when a hurricane came through, Isabel, a few years ago, we were the only building in the entire community that had power. This community was at the center of Isabel and had no power for 3.5 weeks, but we had power the entire time. Photovoltaics, the sun was out, and we had batteries so we could go through the night, and we were giving people hot showers because we had solar water heaters, and their water heaters were out. So all of a sudden we became good guys. And it just takes time for people to adjust and to see that sustainable living isn't a luxury. It's going to be a necessity.
All right,
stand by. We're that close.
All right, stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, our guest this hour is Dr. Stuart Rose. His website is gardenatriums.com, and his book, Sustainability, is available at amazon.com. The good doctor and I will be back on the other side of this news break as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and the X Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away.
I am not a new man, but neither am I old. I am not a rich man, but I cannot be.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Dr. Stuart Rose is my special guest this hour, Exonation. His website is gardenatriums.com, and the name of his book is Sustainability, and it's available at amazon.com. Over the break, I was sent an email from one of my producers that there are certain municipalities in the province of Ontario that have outlawed wind turbines because, quote unquote, they look ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. And then there are some wine counties that have outlawed the wind turbines because the air current that is caused by the wind going through the turbine affects the growing of the grapes. Get a life, you people.
I'll give you a worse one, actually. Are you familiar at all with the Pennine Way in England?
No, I'm not.
It goes up the center of England. It was our first national trail. Mm-hmm. And it is like a wind tunnel. You only walk it from south going north because the wind will be behind you that way. And it's not occasional gusts. You're talking about like in a wind tunnel. And it's a 17-day walk. You can walk part or the whole thing. Well, if you think about that wind, they could generate all the power for the United Kingdom just along the Pennine Way. And they could put it on little farms. However, if a farmer on his own property puts up a wind turbine, and I don't think they're unsightly. I don't know why people think that nuclear power plants and coal-fired power plants are pretty, but the wind turbines aren't. And they put up this wind turbine, doesn't bother the sheep, but if a motorist going by thinks it's unsightly, they can petition to the local city council to have the farmer take his wind turbine down.
I've got a better idea. Just shoot the guy who made the complaint.
But now you're talking about causing change, and if everybody saw wind turbines all over the place, you have a new device that's being put in right now in Canada in 2 locations. There's 3 that have been completed in the United Kingdom, and they're putting one in the Bay of Fundy and one in probably either near the San Juan Islands, the Straits of Georgia.
Right.
And that is tidal power.
Yes.
And these are large installations where they'll support about 250,000 homes, and there's nothing visible, so that people can't complain. And it doesn't move very quickly, so it doesn't really hurt any fish or endanger any fish, and it's not in an area where you're going to interfere with boating or swimming.
Mm-hmm. I believe the name of the president of the company is Michael Berger, and I think we've had him on the show.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. It's a British company, and I've done emailing back and forth with them. I think you're going to see installations like that respond to people saying, well, we don't want to see it or hear it or anything, but people will still come up with reasons why not. I think you were talking about resistances, and I think one of the problems that we have, it's going to get forced on us actually, the organizations, and this could be government at any level, corporations, the ones that got us into the bind are not going to be the ones that get us out of it.
Well, of course not, because they want to keep the bind the way it is because they're making money.
Well, and it's a control issue in a way by
Sure
politicians. They like to be in charge and take leadership. And it isn't so much the people, it's the systems that were created originally to help our countries they need to get changed. And I don't have the magic solution, but I can tell you that life in the next, not 20 or 10 years even soon, is going to be quite different around our entire planet.
You know, Edgar Mitchell and Neil Armstrong and some other Apollo astronauts are part of a space consortium. A good friend of mine, Howard Bloom, is on the board as well. And what they want to do is they want to bring solar energy to Earth from outer space. Microwave it back. Once again, the bigger hydro companies and power companies are saying, no, we don't want that to happen. And basically why? Because they don't have the ability to do it, that they'd actually lose all the control of this new venture. That's right.
That's right.
It's pretty pathetic.
And also the corporations, they don't care about national boundaries. And so you'll find that like a politician, the definition of a constituent is somebody that gets you into office. Well, right now, corporations that can make major donations are really their constituents. And that puts the corporations almost in charge of our government. And so when the power company that wants to produce, say, nuclear power, wants to build new plants, suddenly the politicians are saying, yeah, we need new nuclear plants. And the biggest joke, I think, is the one called clean coal. They want to put in some new clean coal plants, and that coal depletes the amount of oxygen that's in the air.
Yeah,
and it's getting down to dangerous levels right now.
So where did they get the idea of calling it clean coal? It makes no sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't at all, except they think they can fund it that way. They can get the government to put in R&D money, and the public won't have such a huge outcry, because most people think it's a good thing that they call it clean coal. It's a little like Hollywood sets. You have to give a name to some kind of a legislation, even though you have no idea what's in it really.
Mm-hmm.
But if it sounds good, people will tend to support it.
Unbelievable, truly unbelievable. Can you just imagine this? A group of terrorists, instead of having the ability to blow up a nuclear reactor, the biggest thing that they could actually do if we went all green would be to blow up a wind tower.
Or pull panels off my roof.
Exactly.
Go house to house, pulling off photovoltaic panels. It's insane. That's right.
So there are so many pros to what you're doing. I told you this off air that I commend you for the great work that you're doing. What will it take? What will it take for the powers to be to fully understand what you're doing, the significance and the importance of what you're trying to accomplish?
That's a huge question, because existing power structures don't give up power easily, even if they're ineffective and dysfunctional. I see Congress as being increasingly dysfunctional. People point fingers and worry about who is to blame rather than getting together and figuring how to fix things.
That's right.
And it isn't the individuals, because sometimes you have a job and you're miserable in a job, and you go take a new job, and now you're happy and productive. Let me talk about what I see happening, because the biggest issues, heating, cooling, power, those are all going to be okay. The biggest issue people need to start thinking about is food. There's water shortages. You do read about that some.
Yes.
But the biggest one is going to be related to food. For instance, China, 3 years ago, their imports equaled Canada's entire harvest, tonnage-wise. And that's huge. That's enormous. So China has been buying up farmland in Southeast Asia, so they can produce more food, because they are running out of arable land. California, and many people may remember earlier this year, early last year, governor had to put a limit on water that went to farmers.
Yes.
And there were some announcements about it. Well, what people don't realize is California provides 50% of all the fruit, vegetables, and nuts for the entire United States. And the average piece of food that comes to the table travels 1,500 miles. That's not sustainable. And so what we're recommending to people is join, if you know what a CSA is, Community Supported Agriculture. They're all over. You can usually Google and find some in your area. I would say, rather than just worry about the home, and there's plenty of that we talked about, is I would also start to say, well, if my house isn't warm enough, I can always add a sweater. But I do need to eat, and my kids need to eat. And so I would either start going to farmers markets and finding farmers that are producing plenty of food, and join a CSA, and you're going to get an abundance of tomatoes when tomatoes are ripe, and then you have to learn how to store them. So canning, and you're going to see people getting back into those things so they can provide, remember that storage element. You've got to provide food for 12 months of the year. So I would see that as being huge. And I think our next project, which I do describe in the book, is going to have to be kind of a total small community, totally off of grids, all grids, so that it stands by itself, and I'm seeing an increased trend towards that. And after the Second War, we built these huge power plants, for example, big nuclear power plants that would take care of millions. And all the trends since then have been towards smaller, decentralized systems, smaller water plants, smaller power plants, and much more localized. And I think that trend is going to get right down to a house or a small community. And so if you're talking about where we're heading, I think it's going to be that governance is going to be in these small communities, and it's going to be by consensus, not by delegation. So rather than representation, I'll represent myself. And there are systems that will allow people to get engaged and to participate together to making decisions for their community.
Is a
But the community won't have $1 million.
Is a sustainable home more economic for a home buyer?
Oh, it is, yes. But it takes a different way to look at the house. What happens when people shop for a home, normally they're going to say, well, how much is this house per square foot?
Right.
And so I see what size of the house is, how much you're asking for it. I can divide it and say, well, it's $182 a square foot. There's one up the street for $175. The assumption is that all the utilities are the same, and they're not. So if I design a passive solar building that heats itself, that will not increase your cost at all. I mean, not a nickel. Basically, I'm increasing insulation, I'm increasing south-facing glass, and I'm eliminating a furnace. I mean, so it's trade-offs, but there's no cost. Once I add photovoltaics to generate power, I'm increasing the cost, so your mortgage goes up, but the utility bill comes down. And so what I have to have people do is to say, I need you to look comparing a traditional house to a totally sustainable house. You've got to look at your mortgage and utility bills per month together. Then it'll start to make great economic sense. The houses we have right now are going to probably sell in the 500s, but they're equivalent of a traditional house at 400,000. It's a huge gap.
Do you think the economy can actually bear the cost?
I think individuals are going to. And I think, I've got 7 houses, so it's hard to say that it's a huge growing trend. But I would say our next project, we're going to be trying to do some houses that are much smaller in size. Quality will be there, but we're probably going to be talking about 800, 1,000, 1,200 square feet. But we're going to have a little inn, and the guest rooms will be at the inn, so that instead of using a guest room 2 nights a month, your guests can go to the inn as your guest even, and it'll cost a fraction of that. So the next development will have to be much more economical for people to eventually get there, yeah.
So basically,
I agree with yours about affordability.
So basically what you're going to be doing is building a house that suit the needs, not the wants of the family.
Yep, but people have to be happy. The number one reason people have bought a garden atrium home so far has nothing to do with environment or sustainability. Number one, I've asked everyone, I'm delighted you decided to buy the house. What were your biggest reasons? Everybody had the same 3 reasons. Number one was aesthetics. It's really pretty. And if people go to the website, at the end of the website, there's a photo tour, and there's a video that was shot by PBS. And they can get a feeling for it, and they'll say, ooh, those are really nice. The message is, in order to be sustainable, you don't have to compromise quality of living. Your house should be equal to or better than what you have right now, as well as being sustainable. That's one. Second was it's well built. We have real wood rather than plastic for doors or plastic moldings. And so you can do a really nice house, and what I would do is just scale it down. There's certain things we did in the house that have no payback, but they're huge for people. One is the 3 biggest sources for off-gassing are paints, carpets, and woodwork, like cabinets. And our cabinets are solid wood because plywood and melamine off-gas long-term. Carpets, the colors and fabrics, whether it's clothing, upholstery, or carpeting, are set with formaldehyde. That's why if you go into a fabric store, your eyes water. And so we use natural wool. You can buy wool carpets with no dye in it. It's got the lanolin in it, and that's what we've used. You can actually get them in about 4 or 5 shades now. And then the other was paint. And about 9 years ago, Sherwin-Williams and Benjamin Moore both came out with 0 VOC paints, VOC being volatile organic compounds. And people think that when paint dries, it's done off-gassing, and the fact is paint off-gasses for almost 10 years. Well, then you get tired of the color in 6 years, so you repaint it and you're starting over again. And what we found in the garden atriums is every resident in every one of the houses has lost their allergies. Some were on medication for winter depression. That was gone in 3 or 4 days. People with allergies, the allergies went away in like 2 or 3 days. I was amazed at how fast. The other thing we did in the atrium itself, we have a lot of plants. And there's 3 plants that are particularly important, I think. 2 of them are broadleaf plants. We have birds of paradise and peace lilies, and they're quite hardy. The big broad leaves soak up carbon dioxide and put out oxygen, a lot of oxygen. And our carbon dioxide indoors is the same as outside air. Our oxygen is much higher. And the other is a little plant called the Boston fern, which is, there's a book you can get called How to Grow Fresh Air, done by a NASA researcher, and the Boston fern will pull toxins out of the air.
All right, stand
And
by. Stand by, Stu. We've got to take our final break. Dr. Stuart Rose is our special guest, gardenatriums.com, and his book is Sustainability. It's available at amazon.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we do tonight's wrap-up here on the X Zone from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
On my way to better things, I found myself some wings. Distant roads are calling me. Dad. No time for a summer friend. No time for the love you send. Seasons change and so did I. You need not wonder why. You need not wonder why. There's no time left for you. No time left for you.
And welcome back, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking all our guests tonight. Our first guest was the Reverend Sheva Amiya. Hour number 2, Lorna Byrne and I talked about angels in Ireland. Peter Kling and I discussed quantum physics to Armageddon. And this hour's guest, Exonation, is Dr. Stuart Rose. He is the author of Sustainability. It's available at Amazon.com. And his website, I've taken a look at this website. It'll just blow you away. www.gardenatriums.com. That's www.gardenatriums.com. One of the questions a producer has here for you, Stu, is do you also plan on getting into the development of sustainable factories?
I'll tell you what I see happening. I'd mentioned that I think the future is going to have a lot of very small communities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're going to be getting into small home industries where people in the community can take care of one another. Then gradually, each community may start to link so that I might make the legs of a chair, you might make the back, and you're going to start to have almost like a large network of family-owned businesses that come together to produce goods.
That's exactly what the Mennonites do. Yeah, that's exactly what the Mennonites do right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Amish, Mennonites. Yeah. And it feels more personal, like a family-owned business. Remember the Studebaker, the Avanti, is made, I think, still in Indiana, and it's almost a family-owned business, and they can produce cars.
And I don't think they had to go to the government for billions of dollars earlier last year either.
That's not going to be an option. Our governments are bankrupt, pretty much.
Let our listeners know where they can find out more about you and the great work you're doing, Stu.
Where can they find out more?
Yep.
I think the book has got the majority of it, and I think if I were to make can I make a kind of a final comment here about sustainability?
Do, yeah.
Most of what we talked about has been the physical side, and I think if you end up where you've got plenty of food and you're warm in the winter and cool in the summer and clothing, and you're miserable, that's not sustaining. That's surviving. And a lot of people think that to be earth-friendly, you've got to go back to cave living. And my perception is we're going to be going the other way. We're going to actually enjoy a higher, better quality of life with better health, better fitness, greater longevity, and a better sense of community. And I think as people get up in the morning, the ultimate thing they've got to feel is pumped. Like today is going to be a fantastic day. And sustainability is actually going to be leading us in that direction. And as I got into doing the research for the book, all of a sudden I was getting into, there was a physicist by the name of Dr. Erwin Laszlo who was talking about we're going to be moving into areas of higher consciousness, which I know your station deals with some.
Yeah, in fact, we've had Erwin on a number of times here.
And I was thinking, is that really part of sustainability? And the more I got into it, the more I begin to realize that is actually what's coming.
Stuart, we've just run out of time
yeah.
for tonight. I want to thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to speaking to you again in the future. Exonation, GardenAtriums.com, and his book is Sustainability. It's available at Amazon. Until tomorrow night, Exonation, always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.